If there's one thing that MAGA extremists are good at, it's spewing lies and misinformation to anyone who will believe it. And this is part of what got the modern MAGA and far-right movement as popular as it is today. Conservatives put on a good face, act confident, and lie straight to our faces. And for the longest time, the news would just give these people a platform and allow them to spew their lies and misinformation. Which is why it's amazing to see that CNN pulled the plug on a MAGA pro-life extremist who is just spewing lies about abortion pills. We have seen more and more of these pro-life extremists talking about abortion pills because the Supreme Court recently refused to hear a case about rolling back FDA regulations on abortion pills. But this isn't the only win that pro-choice activists have received. Earlier today, the Idaho Supreme Court decided that emergency abortions were now legal. Take a look.
Breaking news from the Supreme Court this morning, a major decision having to do with abortion and reproductive rights, specifically the right to an abortion when it is medically necessary for the health of the mother. The court has just decided to hold the issue and not decide the case that was before it. This pitted Idaho state law, one of the strictest abortion bans in the country, against federal law and what to do when a woman comes in and her health is at risk and she may need an emergency abortion. I've got Laura Jarrett here, our legal correspondent, Kristen Welker, as well. First of all, we should just say that a copy of this opinion was inadvertently posted on the court's website yesterday. At a very cursory glance, this appears to be the same decision that was released accidentally yesterday. We'll line by line it.
Yes.
But let's get to then, assuming that is the case, and what we've read of it so far, this is a decision that the Supreme Court has essentially decided not to make yet.
Yes,
Explain.
They're kicking the can down the road about whether there is a real conflict between federal law that requires hospitals that receive federal funding, which is most of them at this point, to perform abortions when it is medically necessary to save a woman's health, not her life, but her health. Say she comes in with an infection, something like that, where she's not on the verge of death, but she's in really dire straits. And federal law says you have to provide an emergency abortion if a doctor thinks it's necessary in that situation. Idaho says, no, it's only if it's to save the life of the mother. And therefore, that's the conflict. Where that sort of daylight is between federal and state law is what this whole case was about.
And we're talking about Idaho, but there are six states that have essentially this same very, very strict abortion ban. You can only have an abortion to save the life of the mother, not the health of the mother. Now, what's interesting about this is the court has said, we dismiss this case. It was improvidently granted. That's legalese for we shouldn't have taken this case.
It's legally, we shouldn't have taken it.
But they did take it, and now they say that was a mistake.
And this issue is going to come up again because, as you mentioned, there are not just Idaho, there's women in all these other states, including Texas, which has this exact same issue right before the court. And that's why both we see conservatives and liberals on this court accusing their colleagues in really pointed language here. I should point out, it's pretty sharp, saying you're dodging something here. This is a duck. This is a punt. This is Justice Alito and Justice Jackson, polar opposites on the merits, but on the duck, they're in alignment here, saying you have to take this on because of that conflict. It's leaving essentially everybody in limbo. If women in Idaho today can get an emergency abortion, but women in Texas can't, and women in other states can't. And so they're saying this is going to be capable of repetition. So you should have solved it now, reconciled that conflict now. And instead, the lower court decision in Idaho is what's going to stand.
Yeah. With this decision, these pro-life extremists are starting to lose confidence and are starting to think maybe the tides are starting to turn in the pro-choice favor, which is why they're feeling more desperate and feel the need to go on national TV and just lie straight to people's faces. And that's where we get this clip of CNN pulling the plug on this MAGA pro-life extremist. Take a look.
All right, Dr. Purnell, I also want to bring in Kristen Hawkins. She is the president of Students for Life of America. What's your reaction to this decision?
Sure. Well, I think President Trump and the GOP needs to take note. The Biden administration continues to make the case to weaponize federal agencies to make abortion a federal issue. But we also see a silver lining in this decision today. If Idaho, while this is tragic, saying Idaho must allow for abortions to prevent infertility, future infertility, the FDA must now change its policy too to do the same, given their no test online distribution scheme of chemical abortion pills, which we know harm women's future fertility, as 15% of women of our population are Rh negative, and there is no testing now because of the Biden administration and their FDA on these dangerous chemical abortion pills. If she's having these pill abortions,
isn't mifepristone,
she's not being tested for Rh
haven't
negativity
the experts said that mifepristone is safe for women to use? But haven't the experts said?
Ask any woman who's Rh negative. Ask any woman, ask someone who's been pregnant, sir. When you're pregnant, one of the first things they do is they test for Rh negative status. Because if you have a miscarriage, if you give birth, if you get an accident,
Ms. Hawkins,
if you have an abortion, you have to be treated immediately.
I'm sorry, mifepristone has been proven to be safe. It's been that way for years, but thank you for coming on. We appreciate it.
No, it actually
we want to go to a
hasn't.
quick break. Thank you very much. We'll be right back.
And that interview hardly lasted over a minute, which is just great because it shows that they're not focused on, trying to keep these people on for a longer segment. It means if they're starting to talk about just random stuff that isn't true, then we're going to boot them out because they don't deserve to have a platform. That's just amazing to see. Because we need to stop giving these people a platform if they're unwilling to engage in any good faith argument. And I think that news networks are starting to see that this is what we should be doing, because this isn't even the first time this week that CNN had to do this. CNN cut off another MAGA extremist for refusing to just answer some basic questions. Take a look.
So he's basically saying there, well, will I let Joe Biden win? It does seem as though many Republicans have set the bar very low in terms of arguing that Joe Biden is basically senile. Now you have people like Doug Burgum coming out and saying, well, President Biden's very accomplished, trying to set expectations in a different place. What do you expect from Joe Biden?
Well, first of all, it would take someone 5 minutes to Google Jake Tapper, Donald Trump, to see that Jake Tapper has consistently frequently likened President Trump to Adolf Hitler.
Ma'am, I'm going to stop this interview if you continue to attack my colleagues. I would like to talk about Joe Biden and Donald Trump, who you work for.
Yes.
If you are here to speak on his behalf, I am willing to have this conversation.
I am stating facts that your colleagues have stated in the past.
Okay.
Now,
I'm sorry, guys. We're going to come back out to the panel. Caroline, thank you very much for your time. You are welcome to come back at any point. She is welcome to come back and speak about Donald Trump, and Donald Trump will have equal time to Joe Biden when they both join us now at later this week in Atlanta for this debate. Our thanks to Caroline.
Overall, I think it's great that news networks like CNN are starting to see that they don't have to give these people a platform if they're just spewing lies and nonsense. If they're not willing to engage in a good faith argument, then they just don't deserve to be given a chance to. It's as simple as that.